All right, hello. We're back with another episode here at Bridge. All right, last time, if you didn't listen, go ahead and listen to our last episode. Last time we got into, what do we get into? Social media representation of healthy relationships and toxic relationships. And today we're going to kick it off with some gender roles and what that looks like. We're going to wrap up Jen's research, which congratulations, Jen, on your first research study, independent research study.
So excited.
All right, tell us a little bit about these gender roles.
So the final theme for the paper was gender roles in the context of societal expectations, norms, and behaviors that are typically associated with individuals based on their gender, right? Mm-hmm. So traits that are commonly associated with men, quote-unquote breadwinner, and then gender norms that are associated with women. So, but before I get into that, gender roles, right? I think that we've seen like the different variations throughout our time, right? So like how that has been depicted from like even going back to like, 1900s, early 1900s, all the way up until now, right? So we have different variations of what that means. But the paper really focused on the traditional norms because those are the ones that are impacting Black women, right? The target population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, all right, so let's get into it, right? So when I asked the participants, about the portrayals, again, of social media and how that impacts how they perceive intimate relationships, they came up with gender roles. A lot of them discussed that in the context of, a lot of confusion related to it because they felt as though as Black women, there were a lot of conflicting expectations on their behalf. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they talked about, we go back into the first theme of Black women tropes. They talked about that strong Black woman, right, which is really associated with like a lot of independence, right? So being able to hold your own down and then hold down for everybody else. But then when they discuss gender roles and this typical or traditional role that women are portrayed as need to be like a part of, it talks about cooking, cleaning, and, a lot of housework. Yes, outdated. We do not support that, but just saying for the sake of the research, that's what came up. And they were saying like how this dynamic puts like a burden on them because they're expected essentially to do both. You know what I mean? So what are y'all thoughts about that before I move on?
Well, I know I definitely seen a lot of stuff in social media that talks about, especially when it's coming to like this red pill community, right? Where there is this idea that the woman has a role and in that role, they have to stick into that role. And it's not just this, like, this is my relationship and what my relationship looks like and this is what works for us. It's like every woman has a role to be in the home, to do the cooking, to do the cleaning, and every man has a role to be outside making money and doing all these things, which is really unrealistic for a lot of women, a lot of Black women, because they are also going out into the community and making money. And then because of what's happening on social media and how men are supposed to be, it's like this, like you said, this confusion with, okay, so I'm making the money, I also have work, but you want me to come home, clean, cook, take care of the kids, make sure I pick up after you, make sure I pick up after me, make sure I pick up after our kids and stuff like that too. So I can definitely see the confusion.
I feel like it took a while for most people to, I feel like everybody actually, like it just, I feel like it got to a point where like a veil was just removed from everybody's eyes, and then we can all see that, oh, I actually work like you, I take hours, I take extra shifts as well, and then I still have to come back to still do the same thing at home that, a person who is like staying full-time at home, does it as a job, a full-time work. So you now want me to also do the same thing while we both come. And also, like, I mean, my head is like everywhere because this is really crazy. So like a couple could go out together and then come back in from work together at the same time, but then one person would go to sleep or go to like shower and then relax, and then another person go do the cooking. I'm like, how?
It's expected to go do
it's
the
expected,
cooking.
It's
expected to go do the cleaning, take care of the children. Right.
I mean, as much as you think the veil has been taken off, some people still live in.
No, I mean the
dark
realization. Like
ages.
people now realize that it's not like it's not. It doesn't necessarily mean that they change
Yeah.
or that like the expectations dropped, but they now realize that we do the same thing or like similar things, but then
Okay.
the expectation on me is even more when it comes to like chores at home.
Yeah, and that's why social media blows up every time this kind of issues are being talked about. Like, I mean, like you said, we go out together at the same time, and I am expected to like do that
Yeah.
because what's your own part? What's that? What's the role for you there? The role for you is to go to work and make money, while I also go to work and make money. So does that mean I'm negating my own gender roles, that I'm supposed to stay at home and do the cleaning for you and then you come back? So like all of these conversations are actually sometimes they're nauseating because you expect that we have moved or we're supposed to have moved away from this, but some people still find ways to justify that archaic belief. And then the women who now have the realization, because I know someone personally who already has the realization, but unfortunately it's become a habit for the man. So for him to get out of it, it feels like the woman is making trouble. So when she talks about all of these things, is that, oh, you've been westernized, people are already
that's
talking
another
into your
word,
ears,
yeah.
oh, you are already forgetting that this is an African way of doing things, and then that puts the woman in such an emotionally, is it violated relationship? I don't know how to put it.
Yeah.
But like you weighs down on them
Yeah.
emotionally because the other person is not ready to change just because they have seen it as the norm. So then unlearning becomes a problem.
Yeah. And that's from a different perspective. Yeah, of like having to come here and being like, this is like the Western way, right? When that is not the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I had one participant, and I really enjoyed her quote. She said, "We are not Black women. We are not meant to culturally fit the gender role dynamics." And I thought that was powerful, and it seems like that is also reflective of y'all of your culture's understanding as well, especially with dealing with these expectations, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I'm glad like someone raised that up, especially because it's like feeding cultural expectations, and it's actually Black women who are supposed to do that. You know, it is your role. So when I ask like, so what is your role? It'd be like, I'm the provider. You know, and I actually hear some Black women actually say, I want a provider.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so with your own expectation of wanting a provider, wait, so there was this person I was speaking to one time. I have to bring this. He was like, so I know, he just told me like straight up, like, I know, you want a provider. So, I actually I didn't tell him I want a provider. Like, he was putting it to me, like, I know you would want a provider. So I actually feel like what I want is like a traditional woman who would like, do all of the chores and all that stuff like that. Why I provide, So I'm like, would I have to do that as a full-time job, or like I would also go to my job? And he was like, yeah, like, I mean, you're free to do your work, and all that stuff. And then I'll be like, so what is my contribution in the house then, aside like the chores? That's assuming I decide that I would assume that role. And he was like, yeah, you could like take some of the rent, and you could probably like just
And to the provider?
just hold on to. He was like, you could like bring like 40% of the rent, and then you would take care of groceries. Why I like take care of other utilities. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, how did we get to this point where we feel like it is okay to even have this kind of conversation?
Right.
To put this kind of expectation of chores, something you actually do as a single person.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
I made
That's
a
it.
post today on Facebook, and I said, I posted the food I made this morning, and I said, cooking has no gender. No.
Hold on.
Oh my God. And I was like, food has no gender. Cooking has no gender.
Right.
Yeah, that's
It is
facts.
something you do for sustenance. Laundry is something you do because you don't want to
Yeah.
be smelling around.
Yeah.
Drinking water and taking your cup back is something you would do. Washing your dishes is
Yeah.
something you would do, or you put it in the dishwasher if your hands are so lazy. There are like these are like basic things that people could do. So I didn't even think that as a person that talking about chores in the house, especially because that's like the most traditional role for women.
Right.
Talking about that, I didn't feel like that would be like something, because this is something every individual, every
Should
human
know
has
how
to
to do.
learn and do.
Yeah, I think people should actually listen to Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk on We Should All Be Feminists.
No, they dislike her. They dislike her.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, people have like their own bias towards
Yeah,
her.
no,
but
I
like,
know,
I love that TED Talk because it talks about all the forms. Now I
Yeah.
remember all the forms of gender roles that have been like that people have internalized. For instance, the idea of cooking. Like you were a bachelor before you got married. Who cooked your meals for you? Let's even assume that your mother tries to like help you and do everything for you. But like there's a difference between your mother and your wife. That's a side.
That's a
Another
huge topic.
point that she talks about was the idea that she went to a restaurant with a guy, and as soon as they like finish the meal, and then someone brings the bill, and then guess who they give the bill to?
To the man.
To the
To the
man.
man.
And that's because they think that the man brought her to the restaurant. I mean, like all of these things are just crazy. And these are not only things that we see on like day to day, like they are entrenched in social media perspective of how women should behave, of how women should be the one to, if I am the only one who bears a child and bear the child and also rear the child, what is the responsibility of my husband? Like he should just fold his legs. I mean, who put the baby there? You did. So it's like all of these things should be best helping each other out, because all these ideas of gender roles like I said earlier, they nauseate me, and people find every opportunity to infuse gender roles in discussions. And I ask them, what exactly is gender roles? But of course, the only thing they know is that women should cook and take care of the house.
And I do think that there's like when in relationships, I think that union does bring about, certain aspects of responsibilities to each other, but that's up to discussion for that
Yeah.
that couple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if it works, the traditional roles, if it works for that couple, it
Good for
works.
you, man.
And if it doesn't, but to like intentionally place on certain
Genders,
requirements
yeah.
just based on gender.
Yeah.
And I just want to put like a quick little note of context. I did read an article one time, and it was having a similar discussion on this. And I like that it referred to these traditional, what we have been referring to as chores, as unpaid labor. And so when you hear that, it's like, okay, you're engaging in this unpaid labor on top of the labor that you have to do to sustain financials. So that's like, when you put those two forms of labor together, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's work. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
it's-
these guys who call themselves, who call themselves providers, I think they also don't know that all of these things, the all gender roles, it weighs on them heavily. Like if they don't know. Like if one person is responsible for everything, I mean, it weighs down on you, like physically, emotionally. So why put yourself in that box and say, oh, I just want to be the sole, that word is heavy.
But they're
And
actually
then someone asking you to pay 40% of rent. I mean, you're the provider, so you should do everything. But like, I think, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Like it weighs heavily on you as a person if you don't allow other people to help you out with stuff.
mind you, they're actually like, just like Jen said, like there are actually people in relationship who actually, subscribe to these things,
And it works.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it works for them. Yeah, 100%. There are people who want to, their full-time job is being a housewife. That's their full-time job. And well, if you find someone,
I want to be
right?
taken care of.
Well, no, but there are actually people, and it works for them. So, like, also saying what, reiterating what Jen and Vanity said, like, it's up to you and your relationship dynamics, right? And I feel like it is a very important conversation to have with
Yeah.
anybody, especially like what are your
Yeah.
gender role expectations?
Yeah.
Just like you ask what are your genotype, and just like you
Yeah.
ask
First
some
date
other,
questions.
very serious questions. Also asking about gender role expectations, because you don't want to assume that things are just just going to work out that way, you know, or things are going to work out the way you plan or expect in your head. So it's actually good to hear people's perception of what they feel like
I'm
each
gonna write
other's
that
gender
question
role
down.
should be.
Thank you very much.
Of
Right.
course.
Yeah, I agree.
So circling back to you know, gender roles on social media, so participants did give examples, and one of them was Tiana Taylor, which I didn't know until doing the study, but she did mention Tiana Taylor recently recently getting a divorce with her husband.
Yeah.
And I guess in an
Iman?
interview, yes, Iman.
Sherman? Nope.
Don't quote me.
Yeah, I was
Don't
gonna
quote
say,
us,
move
don't
on.
quote us.
I don't know.
Don't quote us, but we know Tiana Taylor husband and her have gotten a divorce. We're getting a divorce at the time of the research study, and I believe it's now have been finalized. But I guess Tiana Taylor has said in an interview how she felt like within her relationship she had to quote unquote dumb herself down, and how she felt like, you know, she had to really solidify herself in the gender roles, which made it difficult for her to do the things that she really wanted to do, and essentially, like she said, referring back to that, dumb herself down. And I doing, like, again, going back to that content analysis, just reviewing a lot of content on social media that was related to gender roles. I seen that there was a correlation between Black women and a similar thing, feeling as though they couldn't really reach their own potential because they were weighed down by these gender roles.
Yeah.
With the idea that, like, you have to. So sometimes it's not even coming from, like, the guy, I would say. Because I've definitely heard things, too, where it's like the partner is actually like, we both are in this, we're in a partnership, but constantly seeing over social media, constantly seeing content that says that a woman should be this way, a woman should be, and not even just a woman, but they will even say like a godly woman, like the Proverbs 31,
Virtuous
you
woman.
know,
Very true.
all of these things about, a woman should be in like this idea of submission and what that looks like, and for people to tell you that it looks like to do this and it looks like to do that, and if you do this, then this works and stuff, and so kind of getting into their head and then putting that pressure on themselves even. So sometimes it's not even coming from their partner, it's coming from
them.
social media and what social media is saying,
Absolutely.
and what they're saying that the Bible is saying, or what they're saying that if you're a good woman, then you're gonna be quiet, but not saying that like it could mean to like not internalize things, but to not having to talk to everybody about your side of the story. It's like you be quiet every single time somebody speaks, when that's not. You know,
I think anyone who uses the Proverbs 31 woman to consolidate, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Okay. Gender roles. I think the person hasn't actually read it, because there are verses there that show you that this woman was industrious. She has servants. She wakes up in the morning to like travel to get stuff. Like she has a lot of people who listen to her, who walk under her. Is that the kind of person you are if you earn that now?
Someone told me on Sunday after church, I just got a message. He just typed Proverbs 30 verse 30. And then I quickly read Proverbs 30. I can't remember what it says now, but it's actually about women being loving and submissive, and it's in line with all of that stuff. And then I immediately read Proverbs 30 verse 31 and it said something different.
Okay.
You know, it was like, this woman is, just like you're saying, she's industrious, you know, her husband supports her in her work, stuff like that. And then I told him Proverbs 30 verse 31. And he was like, "Oh, I see that." I'm like, "Yeah,
Really?
let's read the beginning and the end, and let's not just extract some things from the Bible or from like whatever religious book we read that feeds on some of the things we feel like we want to see happening in our relationship, but like also, you know, just like Vanity said, see the meaning, internalize what it really means."
Do we have instances of gender roles that sort of like tilt towards like employment, job opportunities for women, or women being more in the being in the political space kind of thing? Like, is that in any way related to people's versions of gender roles?
That wasn't mentioned too much in this study per se. I'm sure there's research related to that topic.
I did see a content analysis.
I see it on social media, for sure.
So I did see a study, a content analysis of gender roles in the media, and so the findings was that women are being projected in the media as what do you say, sexual gatekeepers, and then non-professional roles, just the traditional roles. But guess what? It was mitigated by something, and that was race.
Okay.
So
that hypersexualization.
So in as much as all women were like, in the study, according to the findings, were like stereotyped in some kind of way, it was mitigated by race. So race had association to certain women being more projected as some kind of way than others.
Like being hypersexualized?
In the media. Yeah.
Right. I think that's also a part of your article that talks about like the portrayal of women based on like hypersexuality, like body image and all that, and how gender role like plays a huge factor.
Gender roles definitely. So even in the part of the article, I discussed like beauty standards and how that was conformed by gender roles, and that was another like aspect of like Black women not quote unquote fitting the mainstream ideals of what the typical woman is supposed to look like, and how that in itself, I think I believe that one of the participants mentioned, two of the participants actually mentioned a feminine coach, and how they seen that on social media, and it was like essentially a person really going into details about what you need to look like in order to be invested in a relationship.
Oh wow!
So or to get a partner.
So like you need to walk this way. You need to make sure that your makeup is always done and flawless. You need to talk very softly.
Laugh very softly. It was the
it's the daintiness for me. So you had to
be demure.
Exactly.
Very demure. It was very. So it was more so how you needed to behave, how you needed to look, and then again combating that hypersexualization based on being a Black woman because the media is being subjected to that that narrative. So all of that was part of the gender roles and how Black women are depicted and how that impacts how they are perceived in intimate relationships.
So that means if I don't use makeup, I am not an ideal woman.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of that stuff again comes from like the red pill community too. Not to bash or anything like that. Like if that's what you go with, good luck. But but yeah, I do think a lot of that stuff comes from there. And that's not to say like you can't work on yourself to, be whoever it is that you desire to be. But I do think it goes to say that it really is important to kind of look within and see who it is that you're trying to be. Like, are you trying to be this very soft-spoken, I don't want to speak because I'm so shy, when that's not you? Like, I don't,
seen, not heard.
And all of this kind of thing. But I think especially with in Black relationships, when we're talking about intimate partner violence, this is going to come up very often because I think a lot of relationships has this idea and use social media to say like, oh, this is how a man is supposed to be, or you need to listen because of this. And then when women fall into those kind of traps, and men also, when we fall into those kind of traps, it creates this conflict in the relationship. And I think that like if you're in a relationship where it is intimate partner violence and people are telling you that you're supposed to be listening to the man and that the man is supposed to be like this and the man is supposed to do this and you're supposed to follow this role, it kind of not forces you, but it kind of gives you the idea that you're supposed to be staying, that you're doing something wrong if somebody is hitting you or verbally assaulting you or emotionally abusing you or financially abusing you. And it's this idea that you're supposed to stay in the relationship because everywhere you look is telling you that this is okay. This toxic kind of relationship is okay to be in because you are the woman and you're supposed to be a false kind of submission or submissive.
So I do want to jump into the final aspect of the paper, and there is a glimmer of hope at the end of this tunnel.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of like hard-hitting information about like, no, media is terrible. But there was one thing I did want to discuss that the participants brought up, and it was soft girl era.
Okay.
So I don't know if people who don't know, soft girl era is a new, so to speak, like hashtag or a platform on social media where it's depicting primarily black women as having sort of this quote unquote soft life, a life where they're being taken care of, a life of luxury, a life that they essentially deserve. And so a lot of the participants mentioned how they do see positivity in this soft girl era. Have y'all heard about soft girl era?
Yeah, I've seen it all over social media.
Yeah.
What do y'all see when y'all see soft girl era being depicted? Like when I see it, I see black women going on dates, receiving gifts, or just being taken care of, essentially, or just like having someone do the house chores or things of that nature, like taking off that burden that we was just describing.
I mean, I think soft girl era doesn't even have to be luxury. Like, it doesn't have to be taking me on a yacht. It doesn't have to. I mean, I like that, but
I wouldn't be mad about
I don't mind. No.
Hold on.
Oh, or maybe you do something wrong and you want to apologize, and then you tell me, pack your bags. Oh, don't even pack your bags. Like, meet me at the airport just with your passport. That's the kind of life that I want. But then it doesn't have to, I mean, only be luxury. Like in cases where maybe the woman who has, I mean, she's done like cooking the food, and then like both of you eat the food, and then you say, oh babe, just sit still. I can take this plate. I can wash it.
Yeah,
It's a partnership.
Yes, taking off the burdens of them. Or she's like, she goes to work and she's fagged out, and you say, oh, let me just take you out. Let me ease the burden of maybe both of us being in the kitchen to cook. I mean,
Order dinner for the night.
Order dinner, exactly.
Taking you out tonight.
That's the soft girl era. It
Take me to
doesn't have
Target,
to be
'cause I love
you
Target.
getting me a private jet or something. But like soft girl era
like
comes
that,
in
yeah.
like subtle
It's on the mundane
manners,
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
But it's
everyday.
considered a luxury because it's not being done.
Yeah.
That's why
yeah,
it's considered.
That's
a luxury.
exactly what I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
Right.
Yeah, I actually feel like, I mean, I kind of feel like when it comes to stuff like this and conversations like this, I'm usually like very radical, especially because I always say, why is there a need to? Why should I have to, why should I have to be happy that you decided to do the laundry today? Why do I mean, I know it's something for some people who would be like, oh yeah, my man did this for me today, When I see those stuffs, honestly, I just scroll past because I'm like, this should be like something, a regular thing, like
To do.
an agreed stuff between both of you. And if it's like, it goes back again to what I said earlier, it should be like an expected conversation so that this line would be drawn in the house so everybody knows. I mean, I think, Vanity, there was a time maybe last year or so we're having this conversation about you bringing like 50-50 of your energy, or 100 of your energy, or like 80-100 of your energy.
That's a
the
big debate.
day where you have like, we're bringing 100, but the days where you're like 80, I know I have to be there for you. Stuff like that. The day where I'm not good, I come back.
I can
and
only bring 20, so I need you to bring your 80.
Yeah,
Or we both only could bring 20, and this is where we at right now.
Yeah.
And I love that understanding that it's going to vary.
Yeah.
Sometimes certain situations are going to require that your partner can't give all of like the full 100%, and that's okay as long as you
on
guys
both
have that
ends.
understanding. Yeah, as long as
But
that
because it's
understanding.
already an established expectation, it becomes difficult for people to understand that today I don't just feel like seeing the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, but it's your duty, so you have to get up whether you feel like or don't feel like it. And I always would, even tomorrow, have a problem with that. So I feel like that's the only issue I have with soft care era. Like, I mean, it's good to be excited, it's good to be, but I'm like, why does it have to be at some time when you feel like it? And why do I have to take it as a surprise that you cooked break fast.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know if you've seen the video of this Taylor Swift, The Man. I'll be a man. Okay, I don't know if you've seen it.
No, seriously.
That's the only part I know.
Are you a Swiftie fan?
I mean, I listen to her songs.
Okay.
And I love them.
Okay, I'm not here to judge nobody.
But like this video actually is one that had a sort of backlash. So many people like talked down on that video because that's not like what they're used to. And it shows a man who gets all the accolades when he does something, when ordinarily that's what he's supposed to do. For instance, he takes the child out to a park, and then everybody starts to take pictures with, starts to take his picture. This
yeah.
man is doing a very good job. This man is doing it.
It
When
is
it's
your
supposed
role
to be
as
exactly
a father.
when it's supposed to be the norm. So
It
like,
is your child, your offspring.
thank you. So that's like, it reiterates that fact where you say, why do I have to be happy when a man does the dishes? And then I go on social media and I say, oh, my man washed my dishes. I'm like, okay, what is he?
You know, when parents be like, "Oh, I got my kid this," I'm like,
Who is
"Yes,
supposed to get them if not
yes,
you?
yes, you did. Yes, it's your role.
I think I'm on the opposite side. I'm not gonna lie, because I do feel that like it's not people's norm sometimes. Like, yes, you're supposed to do this. We're all supposed to have something and supposed to do something, right? But if it's not a norm for you and you're learning and you're taking the initiative to be like yes, it's their kids. You're absolutely supposed to be taking your kids out. But what if you normally don't? Like, what if you never have the time to? And so you're like, okay, I'm gonna make the time to do this. What if you didn't have a role model to show you this and you're doing these things? So I do think there is a space of being like, you know what, like, at least from my point of view, I do think that there's a space of being like, yes, I'm happy that he made me breakfast, even because he normally can't cook. He's not a good cooker, and we established
that's what you're
not
saying.
know.
That's what you're saying, Valenti. It's an established stuff. You just said we're established, right?
Yeah, not like in my relationship, but I'm
No,
just
I'm not
saying in
saying
general,
you.
like,
Yeah.
but I'm
No,
just saying though,
gonna talk about it.
just for context, that we don't
Yeah.
always know the context of why they're so excited that this person made them breakfast, or
That's
why
because
like
they're not used to it. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen regularly.
But
Like,
right,
what
so
we're
I
saying
don't-
is that it shouldn't be the norm. Like, in a real or ideal, let me say
Yeah.
ideal situation, like that shouldn't be. But like, if it's somebody who is just taking the initiative because he doesn't know and he's trying to be better, that's fine.
Let's get my point. Let's get my point very clearly.
Okay.
So now, if it's an established relationship role where the wife is supposed to cook while the husband goes to work, or the wife actually goes to work, they both work, but then they know that at home or in this space, this is our role.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's some relationship that have that established role. Like, you generally just know that, okay, I clean, I wash, I blah, 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 and then he does this, you know. So if that is an established role and he does something extra for you, you know, he cooks, maybe he does break fast. So that's enough to like wow the person, because it's not your role. Like, you stepped out of your way. So that's good. You know, I don't have a problem with an established role. But when it's like, this is your expectation, this is my expectation of you because you are a woman. That's where
That's
I have
what
the
is wrong.
problem.
Yeah.
You know, this is my expectation of you because you're a woman and you have to cook. And then you hear people say, oh yeah, because this is your role, like this is what you're supposed to do in the house. So if you're not doing this, then you're less of a woman. You know, you're not fulfilling your motherly role or your wife rights or your wife duties at home. So that's where the issue is. So I don't have a problem with like people doing the little things for people and, you know, getting easing the burden out of like people and all of the stuff. But where I have a problem is when it is an expectation and you know that this person is drowning from this expectation and you're not helping.
Yeah.
And I think that black women do, I think that, again, going back to the study, I think that black women do feel this burden of having to give 150% all the time.
Yeah.
And how that burden is really like crushing them.
You burn out.
Burning out. I will say, though, with the soft girl era, I will say that I think that it is a positive impact on social media, because it does begin to change the narrative. And just that in itself, changing that narrative, can be influential, because that's what we talked about throughout this
Yeah.
series so far is throughout all of these narratives, right? The narrative of strong black woman, angry black woman,
Yeah.
the narratives portrayed on social media as far as celebrity relationships.
Yeah.
So it's narrative, and now I finally see through all of the findings
Yeah.
one narrative that's actually depicting something
Yeah.
positive for
Yeah.
this population.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that
Yeah.
narrative's there. I hope that it continues to evolve
hope
into
so
something
too.
better,
Mm-hmm.
something stronger, something more influential. But I am glad to see some type of, like I said, slither
Yeah.
of hope on media and a positive portrayal.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, this has been like a very beautiful study. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been nice having like all of these
Yeah.
episodes discussing this. Yeah,
Yeah.
discussing what social media has to. I mean, perception of Black women in social media.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting that we had to like go through music. We went through movies.
Yeah.
We went through what else? What else have we gone
All the
through?
narratives
Yeah,
that
all
I
of
was
them.
mentioning.
Yeah.
Yep.
True
All the
tropes.
social media, how this looks in our community.
Mhm. And I'm glad
Role
that it
models.
came. You're right, and I'm
Yeah,
glad that
role
it came back to, really supporting that aim of education.
Yeah.
And what healthy and unhealthy can look like, especially on a platform such as social media.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
glad that you all were able to tune in and listen to this study. There'll be more studies from this
Yeah.
Absolutely.
group. All right, there'll be more research that we will look into.
Yeah.
And we're just excited to keep giving that information, disseminating all of that to you so that we can, again, grow as a community.
Yep.
And
If
please
you-
don't be a hoarder.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. No,
Sorry.
I was gonna say if you watch up until this part, then you got all the good part.
And if
Don't-
you
don't
haven't, go
hoard it.
back.
Yeah.
Go back.
Don't hoard it. Share it with someone.
Yes.
yeah,
yes.
share.
Yes.
Please share.
And also follow the page, like subscribe and follow. There's like a follow, but like you don't get to see the follow until you like maybe scroll down or scroll up or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, follow us.
Like some
We'll-
people will say, it doesn't hurt to follow.
It doesn't. You don't have
All
to pay
right.
any money to follow or subscribe.
No,
and stay
it's
tuned for all the
free.
new things that we're gonna be doing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Any
Yep.
events that might be coming up in the next year.
Yeah.
And just all the things that we're doing, websites, everything. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Been great.